What is up, people? Miles here with Keep the Change. Today we're talking about electric vehicle stocks, whether or not they're in a bubble, whether or not you should sell them or be careful about them. So I want this video to be relatively quick and easy, so there's not going to be a ton of editing. It's more going to be me talking to you guys directly. So if you appreciate me doing this, go ahead and hit that like button and make sure to subscribe as well. It really helps the channel out. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. And if you don't like and subscribe, then I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight because this is all I have in my life. So please, for the love of God, like and subscribe. Now, electric vehicle stocks have really taken off this year. Obviously, we've got the big dog of the house, Tesla, and Tesla stock has been extremely high. It's gone up something like 800% in the last year. So after Tesla went parabolic, we had a bunch of different companies come out: Workhorse, Nikola, Hyllion, a bunch of companies. So first was Nikola, which was a complete fraud, and I'm not going to talk about that here. You can go and watch my video on it if you really want. And we're not going to dive too deep into all these stocks specifically. We're more just going to focus on the industry as a whole and what I think of it. So electric vehicles, obviously it's a very rapidly growing industry, and honestly I'm extremely bullish on the industry. I think in 10 to 20 years we'll have a ton of electric vehicles and gas vehicles will be kind of phased out. I think once you drive an electric vehicle, it's almost the equivalent of a smartphone. Like, you don't go back to the flip phone, you don't go back to the gas car, if you know what I'm saying. So of course a bunch of new electric vehicle stocks have been coming out this year specifically, namely Workhorse, Hyllion, Blink, a bunch of other ones, but you get the idea. Now these stocks have seen tremendous gains in the past month, so there's a couple reasons for that. The first reason is that I think investors missed out on Tesla, so they're trying to find the new Tesla. You know, you see that stock go up 800% in a year, you say, hey, let's find another electric vehicle stock, hopefully it'll go up the same amount. And the second reason is they just have a ton of hype behind them in general. I mean, you look at a guy like Jack Spencer on YouTube, he talks about EV stocks practically every day, and I'll give him credit where credit is due. He talks about the risk and the reward, and he talks about how these are high growth stocks, so they're going to be extremely volatile. So even though they're up a lot now, they're going to go down quite a bit in the future, possibly. Now, personally, looking at all these new stocks come out this year and then go up like 300 to 500% in a matter of months, I think is ridiculous and almost bubble territory. I think people are so caught up in finding the next Tesla, or they just watch a Jack Spencer video and they basically say, hey man, he's talking about Workhorse, how it's going to go up 500% in the next couple years. I should invest into this company. And let me get this straight. There's nothing bad about investing in a company that is sort of speculative. What I mean by speculative is the fact that they haven't actually proved anything. Workhorse and Hyllion, all these stocks basically have hype on the future potential, not what is happening in the present day. So the prices of these stocks are going up an insane amount, basically to say that investors think in the future they're going to be worth a ton of money. Even though the electric vehicle market is growing at an insane rate, there is a couple mistakes with thinking this way. First off, these companies aren't Tesla. They haven't actually proved anything. Even though in theory, their revenues could go up hundreds of percents in the future, you just don't know that. Management has barely been around. You don't actually know if they're capable of doing what they say they're going to do. I mean, just look at Nikola. They talked a bunch of trash and then basically they couldn't even back it up. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen with these companies. However, that's just something to keep in mind. It's all talk until it actually happens. But these stocks are priced to perfection. I mean, if you look at them, the prices are ridiculous. Let's take an example of a stock that people already think is overvalued: Zoom stock. So Zoom stock has a price to sales ratio of 100, which is considered extremely rich. Now let's look at Workhorse stock. Workhorse stock has a price to sales ratio of 10,000. That's just absolutely insane. So the valuations on these companies are extremely high. You don't know the management team, and also they're unprofitable, which is an extreme problem. See, unprofitability is sustainable. You can be in an unprofitable business. However, it's going to come at the detriment of two things. The first one is debt. So basically, if you're a new business and you're running out of cash, you're going to have to issue debt in order to maintain the business, right? So having debt on the balance sheet is an extremely dangerous thing when you're unprofitable. If you can't manage to turn a profit in the right amount of time, then you're going to have to owe a lot of debt and you won't be able to pay it and you'll go bankrupt, which could lead your stock price basically to zero. It could plummet it. And the other option is that you sell more shares in order to get cash. However, when you sell stock to the market, the share price is inevitably going to go down. This is if you can't turn a profit in the coming years. And with speculative stocks, you don't actually know whether or not they're going to do that. Maybe every 1 out of 10 is actually able to turn into the next Tesla or something of that caliber. A lot of these speculative stocks are going to fail, and that's just the reality. So I don't think there's anything wrong with putting a couple percent of your portfolio into stocks like this, because the risk reward is basically I could lose it all or I can make massive gains. However, what I want to warn you about is if you put all your money into these type of stocks, you're going to see extreme volatility, and most of the time it won't work out. Now, a great example of this is back in 2017, 2018, when the cannabis industry started going crazy. I remember it like it was yesterday. Every cannabis stock that you look looked at basically was going up an extreme amount. Raw cannabis was $4. It managed to go up quite a bit, and then it went up even more. This was just basically off hype alone. Now, this is very reminiscent of EV stocks, mainly because there was just a ton of hype around the cannabis industry at that time. So everybody was pouring their money in. There was a lot of euphoria going into these sectors, into the cannabis stocks, and they all came crashing down. So what I'm trying to say is, could EV stocks go up in the near future? Sure. However, at the end of the day, even though valuations might get ridiculous, they will come down back to earth at some point. So I just want you to be careful investing into stocks like these. These are speculative stocks. A lot of them won't work out. The cannabis industry was extremely hot and got destroyed. It reminds me a lot of that, and I don't want you to get trapped in that bubble, in that mind state of, oh, FOMO, because I have to buy into this stock because it's going to be the next big stock. I'm sure one of these EV stocks will go up a lot in valuation, in terms of dollar amount, in terms of share price gains. However, if you're betting on all of them, more likely than not, you're going to lose most of them. So if you do invest into the EV space, I recommend you do your research, and I also recommend that you don't buy too heavily. If your entire portfolio is in the EV sector, that is an extremely dangerous game to play, okay? You're basically leaving your fate up to chance at that point. You should have a foundation of solid stocks to balance out your portfolio, and then you can have a little speculative plays on the side. If your entire stock market account is comprised of all these EV stocks at once, then that's not going to bode well for you. Sure, a couple of them might go crazy, but a lot of them are going to crash and burn, and that's just a sad reality. Besides, Tesla is so far ahead in so many things. I mean, the biggest thing that Tesla has going for it is self-driving, and a lot of these companies don't actually have that. They just have the electric part down. So if Tesla was to enter these markets, they can actually dominate them and destroy them. Don't go throwing your money in stocks just because it's the cool thing at the moment. That usually ends up hurting you more often than not. That's my warning to you with EV stocks. Be very careful. I think they're kind of in bubble territory at this point. I know this video was kind of all over the place and kind of quick. However, I just wanted to get this info out to you as quick as possible. So thank you so much for watching, and I love you. Make sure to subscribe.